We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. It is October, the 16th, 2021. It's getting cold out there here in Kentucky, man. I just got off work. It's 8 a.m. Just honestly, it'd been raining all night. Stormed for a little bit. And so it's good weather for some paranormal stuff today. We're going to be covering a Native American ghost story. Like I said, all of this month for October, we're going to be covering like paranormal, maybe true crime, stuff like that. Stuff for Halloween, kind of get everybody in the mood. And I will be putting out like maybe some old ghost hunting videos from my old channel. If you follow us on YouTube, it's Conspiracy Corner Podcast. I do put out other stuff besides podcasts on there. And if you want to listen audio only, we do have a sponsor, so we get paid a little bit here and there. You can check us out on Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Spotify, or Anchor. And we have uncensored stuff on BitChute and YouTube. Yeah, that's about it for an opening. Just been working. Getting a little bit of overtime here and there. Might get some overtime next week and the next week after that. But that's about it as far as anything new. We'll get on with the show. Now this is the story of the spirit wife from the Zuni tribe. Here, Zuni Orpheus makes a hair-raising journey to accompany his dead wife, only to learn the inevitability of death itself. Now, it is kind of weird. You'll see like myths throughout all over the world telling the same stories. And this is like essentially the same story as Orpheus. Now, if I remember correctly, Orpheus went down into the underworld to get his wife from like Hades or something. And he was told basically not to touch her or look at her. He had to travel through basically Hades, the darkness, on this stairwell up into the normal world. But that was the only rules. He wasn't allowed to touch her, or he wasn't allowed to turn around and look at her. And he couldn't resist and ended up doing so and losing her forever, basically. A young man was grieving because the beautiful young wife whom he loved was dead. As he sat at the graveside weeping, he decided to follow her to the land of the dead. He made many prayer sticks and sprinkled sacred corn pollen. He took a downy eagle plume and colored it with red earth color. He waited until nightfall, when the spirit of his departed wife came out of the grave and sat beside him, which is kind of creepy, like a zombie. She was not sad, but smiling. The spirit maiden told her husband, "I am just leaving one life for another, therefore do not weep for me." "I cannot let you go," said the young man. "I love you so much that I will go with you to the land of the dead." Spirit wife tried to dissuade him, but could not overcome his determination. So at last she gave, and this into his wishes, saying, "If you must follow me, know that I shall be invisible to you as long as the sun shines. You must tie this red eagle plume to my hair. It will be visible in daylight. And if you want to come with me, you must follow the plume." The young husband tied the red plume to his spirit wife's hair, and at daybreak, as the sun slowly began to light up the world, bathing the mountain tops in a pale pink light, the spirit wife started to fade from his view. The lighter it became, the more the form of his wife dissolved and grew transparent, until at last it vanished altogether. But the red plume did not disappear. It waved before the young man, a mere arm's length away, and then, as if rising and falling on a dancer's head, began leading the way out of the village, moving through the trees out into the cornfields, moving through a shallow stream, moving into the foothills of the mountains, leading the young husband ever westward toward the land of the evening. The red plume moved swiftly, evenly, floating without effort over the roughest hills, and soon the young man had trouble following it. He grew tireder and tireder, and finally was totally exhausted as the plume left him far behind. Then he called out, panting, "Beloved wife, wait for me. I can't run any longer." The red plume stopped, waiting for him to catch up, and when he did so, hastened on. For many days the young man traveled, following the plume by day, resting during the nights, when his spirit bride would sometimes appear to him, speaking encouraging words. Most of the time, however, he was merely aware of her presence in some mysterious way. Day by day, the trail became rougher and rougher. The days were long, the nights short, and the young man grew wearier and wearier, until at last he had hardly enough strength to set one foot before the other. One day the trail led to a deep, almost bottomless chasm, and as the husband came to its edge, the red plume began to float away from him into nothingness. He reached out to seize it, but the plume was already beyond his reach, floating straight across the canyon, because spirits can fly through the air. The young man crawled across the chasm. "Dear wife of mine, I love you. Wait." He tried to descend one side of the canyon, hoping to climb up the opposite side, but the rock walls were sheer, with nothing to hold on to. Soon he found himself on a ledge barely wider than a thumb, from which he could go neither forward nor backward. It seemed that he must fall into the abyss and be dashed into pieces. His foot had already begun to slip when a tiny striped squirrel scooted up the cliff, chattering, "You young fool, do you think you have wings of a bird or feet of a spirit? Hold on for just a little while and I'll help you." The little creature reached into its cheek pouch and brought out a little seed, which it moistened with its saliva, and stuck it into a crack in the wall. With his tiny feet, the squirrel danced above the crack, singing, "Tissel, tissel, tissel, tall stalk, tall stalk, tall stalk, sprout, sprout quickly." Out of the crack sprouted a long, slender stalk, growing quickly in length and breadth, sprouting leaves and tendrils, spanning the chasm so that the young man could cross over without any trouble. On the other side of the canyon, the young man found the red plume waiting, dancing before him as ever. Again he followed it at a pace so fast that it often seemed that his heart would burst. At the last the plume led him to the dark, deep, deep lake, and the plume plunged into the water to disappear below the surface. Then the husband knew that the spirit land lay at the bottom of the lake. He was in despair because he could not follow the plume into the deep. In vain did he call for his spirit wife to come back. The surface of the lake remained undisturbed and unruffled, like a sheet of mica. Not even at night did his spirit wife reappear. The lake, the land of the dead, had swallowed her up as the sun rose above the mountains. The young man buried his face in his hands and wept. Then he heard someone gently calling, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," and felt the soft beating of wings on his back and shoulders. He looked up and saw an owl hovering above them. The owl said, "Young man, why are you weeping?" He pointed to the lake, saying, "My beloved wife is down there in the land of the dead, where I cannot follow her." "I know, poor man," said the owl. "Follow me to my house in the mountains, where I will tell you what to do. If you follow my advice, all will be well, and you will be reunited with the one you love." The owl led the husband to a cave in the mountains, and as they entered, the young man found himself in a large room full of owl men and owl women. The owls greeted him warmly, inviting him to sit down and rest, to eat and drink. Gratefully, he took his seat. The old owl who had just brought him took his owl clothing off, hanging it on an antler jutting out from the wall, and revealed himself as a man-like spirit. From a bundle in the wall, this mysterious being took a small bag, showing it to the young man, telling him, "I will give this to you, but first I must instruct you in what you must do and what you must not do." The young man eagerly stretched out his hand to grasp the medicine bag, but the owl drew back. "Foolish fellow, suffering from impatience of youth, if you cannot curb your eagerness and your youthful desires, then even this medicine will be of no help to you." "I promise to be patient," said the husband. "Well, then," said the owl man, "this is sleep medicine. It will make you fall into a deep sleep and transport you to some other place. When you awake, you will walk toward the morning star. Following the trail to the middle ant hill, you will find your spirit wife there. As the sun rises, she will rise and smile at you. Rise in the flesh, a spirit no more, and so will you live happily. But remember to be patient. Remember to curb your eagerness. Let not your desire to touch and embrace her get the better of you. For if you touch her before bringing her safely home to the village of your birth, she will be lost to you forever." Having finished this speech, the old owl man blew some of the medicine on the young husband's face, who instantly fell into a deep, deep sleep. Then all the strange owl men put on their owl coats, and, lifting the sleeper, flew him to a place at the beginning of the trail to the middle ant hill. There they laid him down underneath some trees. Then the strange owl beings flew on to the big lake at the bottom of which the land of the dead was located. The old owl man's magic sleep medicine and the feathered prayer sticks which the young man had carved enabled them to dive to the bottom of the lake and enter the land of the dead. Once inside, they used the sleep medicine to put to sleep the spirits who were in charge of the strange land beneath the waters. The owl beings reverently laid their feathered prayer sticks before the altar of the netherworld, took up the beautiful young spirit wife, and lifted her gently to the surface of the lake. Then, taking her upon their wings, they flew with her to the place where the young husband was sleeping. When the husband awoke, he saw first the morning star. So I wonder if that would be Venus. Then the middle ant hill, and then his wife at his side, still in deep slumber. Then she too awoke and opened her eyes wide, at first not knowing where she was or what had happened to her. When she discovered her lover right by her side, she smiled at him, saying, "Truly your love is for me, is strong, stronger than love has ever been. Otherwise we would not be here." They got up and began to walk toward the pueblo of their birth. I ain't sure what that word means, I'm not gonna lie. The young man did not forget the advice the old owl man had given him, especially the warning to be patient and to shun all desire until they had safely arrived at their home. In that way, they traveled for 4 days, and all was well. On the 4th day, they arrived at Thunder Mountain, and came to the river that flows by Salt Town. Then the young wife said, "My husband, I am very tired. The journey has been long, and the days are hot. Let me rest here a while, let me sleep a while, and then, refreshed, we can walk the last short distance home together." And her husband said, "We will do as you say." The wife lay down and fell asleep. As her lover was watching over her, gazing at her loveliness, desire so strong that he could not resist overcame him, and he stretched out his hand and touched her. She awoke instantly with a start and looked at him, and at his hand upon her body, and she began to weep, the tears streaming down her face. At last she said, "You loved me, but you did not love me enough. Otherwise you would have waited. Now I shall die again." And before his eyes her form faded and became transparent, and at the place where she had rested only a few moments before, there was nothing. On a branch of a tree above him, the old owlman hooted mournfully, "Shame, shame, shame." Then the young man sank down in despair, burying his face in his hands, and even after his mind wandered, as his eyes stared vacantly. If the young lover had controlled his desire, if he had not longed to embrace his beautiful wife, if he had not touched her, if he had practiced patience and self-denial for only a short time, then death would have been overcome. There would be no journeying to the land below the lake, and no mourning for others lost. But then if there was no death, men would crowd each other with more people on this earth than the earth could hold. Then there would be hunger and war, with people fighting over a tiny patch of earth, over an ear of corn, over a scrap of meat. So maybe what happened was for the best. So we have some more time. That first one was a Zuni legend, the spirit wife. Since we're on the subject of ghost wives, and the name of this episode is The Indian Ghost Wife. This next one is literally called The Ghost Wife by the Brule Sioux tribe. It's a little bit shorter, but we got time, so I figured we'd do that one next. Keep with the theme. And if we got still some more time, there's a couple other shorter Native American ghost legends, ghost stories that I could share with you. Once there was a man, a fine hunter and good provider, who was very much in love with a handsome wife. They had two beautiful children, with a third on the way. When his wife was about to give birth, she was in labor for a long time. The baby wouldn't come out, and it hurt so much that the woman cried. The husband fetched an old woman who knew about such things. She tried birthing medicine and all her other powers, but nothing helped. The child just wouldn't come out, and the young wife died. The husband was crazy with grief. He had loved her so much, and now he didn't know what to do. He ate almost nothing. He cut his little finger off to show how much he missed her. He held all kinds of ceremonies for her. Damn, cut his finger off. That's kind of extreme. Sometime after she had died, the man was walking near his tepee one night when he saw a ghost. It was something like a white fog, a mist shaped like a woman. It was his wife calling him. She said, "I couldn't stand seeing you in so much grief. I took pity on you. It's not at all bad where I am, and I can arrange for you and the children to join me. Then we can walk the Milky Way together and never be separated again." That's kind of cool. I mean, I'm not sure if they believe that they go up into the sky, but if she's walking around on the Milky Way, that actually sounds like a dope afterlife. The man said, "Come into the tepee. Let's talk this over." So the white shape went inside with him. They sat down. The man said, "I'm not quite ready to die yet, and the children are too young to die. Instead of our going with you to that spirit place, can't you arrange it so that you can come to life again and stay with us?" The ghost did not know. She said she would ask and return in 4 days with an answer. 4 days later she came back, standing outside the tepee in the moonlight like a white mist. She called her husband and told him, "Well, all right, it's arranged for me to come to life again. Make a curtain of buffalo robes that I can that I can hide behind, and don't look at me or try to touch me for 4 days. If you do, I'll remain dead, so be careful, husband." The man followed every instruction. He hung the curtain and didn't look, or let the children look behind it. He did everything right, and after 4 days his wife came out from behind the curtain, young and pretty as before. The couple and their children lived again as if she had never died. They were all happy together. When years had passed, however, the man fell in love with another woman. He told his wife, "I shall marry a second woman, and she will share the work with you. You'll have someone to talk to when I'm out hunting. Things will be more pleasant." But things got worse. The first wife tried to get along with the second one, but the new woman was proud and jealous. And as often happens, the man paid more attention to his new wife, the younger and prettier one. The new woman did not like having the old one around either, and she told her, "You're nothing but a ghost. You're not even real. Why do you hang around? Why don't you go back up to the Milky Way where you belong? Go away, ghost." The first wife said nothing, but the next morning she was gone, and her husband and children were gone with her. They had vanished without a trace. This time the ghost wife had taken them to the spirit land rather than to stay with them down on earth. When the new wife realized what had happened, she was sorry for what she had said, but that did not bring them back. So, there you go. Similar to the first one, but this husband actually obeyed the rules. I'm not sure if that's a good ending, though. I mean, I'm not really into polygamy, but I don't know. I mean, if it works, I guess. But uh, kind of some cuckoldry in there. But we got some more time, so I'll do some more stories. This one is The Origin of the Snake Dance by the Tiwa Indian tribe. Long ago, two summer people, society members, a father and his son, lived in one of the Hopi villages. Whenever offerings were made to the supernaturals, the son would always say, "I don't believe that these things are ever taken by the gods. I wonder if there really are any gods." At last he decided, "I'll find out the truth. I'm going to the lower place to see if the gods really are there, and if they're all supposed to be." Explanations from his father and other religious leaders that the gods do not take the offerings themselves, but only the essence or the core, did no good. He set out on his way. But yeah, I've actually heard that a lot, like in different cultures and stuff, people putting out food and stuff like that. And I've heard some actually weird stories of like the food literally disintegrating or almost like deflating in front of people. So I don't know, there might be something to it. After he had traveled for several days, the Silent One, a Tiwa rain god, appeared to the young man. The Silent One asked, "Where are you going?" "I am going to the lower place to look for the gods," he responded. "Even if you travel until you grow old, you will never get there," the Silent One replied. "The lower place is too far for you to reach. Go no further, and do not doubt the existence of the gods." After saying this, the Silent One turned himself into his supernatural form and then back into a man again. The youth was frightened and impressed, but he could not let the rain god deter him. He insisted on continuing his journey. After the young man had traveled further, the dear Kachina cloud god appeared, also in human form. Again the youth did not recognize him as a god, and again the god scolded him and urged him to go back. "I have horns," the god said, "and I am the gamekeeper of your people." Whereupon he also transformed himself into his supernatural form and then back to a man. Despite these warnings, the youth insisted on going on. "Snake Village is closer than the lower place, and that is far as you can go," said dear Kachinka Cloud. "After visiting Snake Village, you must return to your own people." Reluctantly, the young man agreed to this. When the youth had gone another short distance, star-flickering glossy man appeared. Man, that sounds like Glimmer Man right there. Star flickering glossy, man. I'll have to do an episode on Glimmer Man. It's like a whole paranormal entity. Let me know in the comments if you guys have ever heard about him or check him out on the internet. There's some crazy stories. I've heard some paranormal podcasts cover Glimmer Man. There's tons of stories out there. Let me know in the comments if that'd be an episode you guys would be interested in. I mean, it is October. He warned the young man again. You can go only to the snake village, no further. The snakes will try to bite you, because you are a doubter. Use this herb on them. In the middle of the village lives the governor of the snake people, and you should go there right away. The snakes are also spirits who can change themselves into people. When the youth reached the village, the snakes did indeed try to bite him, but he spat the herb in their direction, and they retreated. He reached the snake governor's home unharmed and was received kindly, though the governor also warned him not to proceed any further. The snake governor had two beautiful daughters who treated the youth so well that he slept with one of them that night. The next day, as he prepared to start on his long journey home, the governor offered him his choice of the two daughters to take with him. He chose the one he had not spent the night with. Next, the governor told him to make piki, a ceremonial bread, in white, yellow, red, and blue, and to scatter it on his return before a mountain north of his village. After he had made the piki, he and his wife began their trip in the company of some of the snake people, who went with them for a part of the way. So great was the distance that the young man's wife had become pregnant and was due to give birth any day by the time they had to reach the Hopi village. On their way, the young man had already scattered the piki before the mountain in this order: white, yellow, red, and blue. Immediately 4 bands of these colors appeared across the mountains. They were intended to be used by the Hopi people, and so they have been ever since. The red for painting pottery, the yellow and red for painting moccasins, and the blue for painting their bodies. I'm guessing like war paint. When the couple reached the foot of the mesa, the wife said she would not remain there until he returned. She told him, however, that no one must touch him, and he must touch no one until he came back to her. When he climbed to his village at the top of the mesa, the young man told his people to take him to Kiva, to build a large fire there, and to gather the whole village. As was expected of him, he told his wife his whole story from the time he had set out to the lower place. This took the whole of that night. Following morning, as he walked down to the bottom of the mesa to take his wife some food, he met a woman with a water jar coming up. She was a former lover of his, and without warning she ran to him and embraced him. When he reached his wife, she already knew what had happened. Weeping, she said, "You don't care for me, so I shall leave and return to my people, but your child will always remain with you." She gave birth to a baby who, like herself, could change into a snake at will. Then she departed. That's why the Hopis dance the snake dance today. The dancers are the descendants of the child born to the young man and his snake wife. Man, that almost reminds me of like lamias, I think is what they're called, like half snake people. Which I don't know. I kind of think that a lot of like human chimeras were being made back then from like the old gods and stuff that you hear. Like, I don't think. I mean, there's chimeras being made now. So to me, I think that a lot of what's happening now that we think is brand new has already happened before. But that's about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll put out a older episode, a rerun from the old channel if you're watching on YouTube. Like I said, I'll try to put out some of the older paranormal stuff and Halloween kind of stuff. But y'all have a good day.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.